So, it goes without saying that Final Fantasy XIV has gone through a lot of changes within the past couple of years, for better or for worse. And while I really like a lot of the changes that they've made to the game, there are some changes designed to make things easier that I feel have dumbed down the game. So, today I want to be talking about that specifically. My name is Umbruhh, and today I want to talk about some of my criticisms on whether or not Final Fantasy XIV is becoming too easy. Now, let me start off by saying that I am by no means an elitist. I mean, of course, that's what most, if not all, elitists say. Plus, I'm not a savage raider, but I would like to give my 2 cents on the issue. So to go back, I started playing the game back in Heavensward in 2016, and it was a much different time in Final Fantasy XIV than it is now. Certain classes felt completely different, like Ninja, which had far more GCDs and OGCDs, just more abilities in general, than it did now. We had a lot more combo GCDs or weapon skills, however you want to call it, like Mutilate, Dancing Edge, Shadow Fang, which are no longer in the game. And they also had a lot of useful utility skills like Smokescreen, Duality, Shadewalker, and I like how you could apply poisons to your daggers as well. And while it may have had a lot of buttons, it was a really fun job to play, and it was pretty rewarding when you knew what you were doing. And plus, having enmity tools, if I'm even saying that word right, enmity? Whatever, aggro. All the aggro tools they've had, they were pretty handy. But I began to lose that feeling that I had for Ninja as time went on. As the new expansions came, they lost their poisons, their enmity tools, and pretty much the only physical GCDs left are their standard 1-2-3 combo, Armor Crush, and Hurajin. And now the job just feels very gutted to the point where it's no longer fun to play, and it feels like a shadow of its former self. Get it? And Ninja isn't the only challenging job that FF14 has dumbed down with the new updates. Jobs like Machinist, Dark Knight, Monk, and Summoner are also some of the jobs that have been reworked to the point which have made them far easier as a result. Although, I can't say I really fault them for reworking Dark Knight in Shadowbringers and Monk in Endwalker, since Monk players had a lot of difficulty in fights due to all the positionals that their combos possessed until the changes in 5.4, which made it easier to handle, and Dark Knight was, well, to put it politely, absolute ass in Stormblood, as it just relied on Dark Art spam, Dark Art spam, Dark Art spam, Dark Art spam, and you lost a lot of your cool OGCDs and combo actions when Stormblood came out, so you no longer had Scourge and you no longer had Delirium. Now you have, well, Delirium. And then you have Summoner, a job that was probably the most difficult to master out of any other Final Fantasy XIV job. You had to have an IQ of over 200 to do the opener optimally. However, it was also perhaps the class with the highest DPS, at least it wasn't Shadowbringers. And then they turned it into one of the easiest classes in the game. Now, don't get me wrong, I have a ton of respect for the devs for listening to their subscribers about the grievances that some of the players have about their jobs. But at the same time, I don't think difficult classes should be dumbed down to the point where if you reverse engineered a leapfrog controller to work with your PC, you'd still be able to play the jobs optimally. And not to mention how they've been exponentially removing more and more dot-based abilities from their jobs, particularly Ninja, Dragoon, Warrior, Dark Knight, and of course Summoner. And maybe it's just me, but I actually liked managing dots and buffs during fights because it gave me more to do. And I feel like while it does make things easier in some regard, it does kind of eliminate some of the challenge that these jobs brought, which might be a welcome change for those who just log into the game to leave their characters AFK in cities. Wait, is that too harsh? I do that too sometimes. I shouldn't have said that. Okay, where was I? Alright, and some of the other changes that they brought was reworking tank stances. So, before Shadowbringers, you had 2 stances, your tank stance and your DPS stance. So previously for Paladin, for example, you would have Shield Oath and you would have Sword Oath. So previously, the tank stance would give you a bonus of 25% of your health, and give you a bonus to enmity and health, whereas the DPS stance would give you a bonus to DPS, but you didn't earn enmity as much or have as much health as your tank stance. And in fights, particularly raids, you would do something called stance dancing, which is where you would frequently change between tank stances and DPS stances. So you would turn on your tank stances when the boss uses some of their attacks or their tank busters, and turn on your DPS stance when it was safe to do so. But in Shadowbringers, the tank stance was just kind of turned to an enmity on and off button, which it definitely makes things more convenient. However, it does eliminate kind of the level of rhythm that you previously had to maintain when you were tanking. And although some of those changes were, I guess, dumbing down the game, there were some changes that I did support, such as removing the stat selector, where you previously had to put points into stats like strength, dexterity, intelligence, mind, and piety, because there was really no reason to pick anything other than what stat your class primarily uses. And I'm totally not saying this because I accidentally put all my stats into strength for a ninja, because that's what I thought the correct strat was. And one of the last things I wanted to bring up was the removal of TP, aka tactical points. And for those of you who started playing after Shadowbringers came out, TP was basically the resource gauge you had for your weapon skills. So basically it was MP but for physical attacks. So before, you would have to keep an eye on this gauge, especially back in Heavensward when you used Sprint, which took away half of your TP, and if you were playing Warrior in a dungeon and just had to spam Overpower a lot. And it would encourage players to keep an eye on what abilities they were using and practice good resource management. But now, since weapon skills no longer use any resource, you can just spam them all willy-nilly with no repercussions. And overall, while I can admit that some of these changes have made the game more accessible, I also feel like it's alienating players who desire more of a challenge from the way their job plays or just in terms of overall gameplay. Anyways guys, I hope you all enjoyed this video. Be sure to give a like and subscribe if you enjoyed it. Comment down below your thoughts on the matter, whether or not you like or disagree with the changes that have been made. Follow me for more Final Fantasy XIV content, and I will see you guys later. You guys are the best. Umbruhh, out.